How to YouTube Hunter's Bracket Speed here. Okay, the other day in my video I was talking about Format clay. I showed briefly this mask that I'm working on, and I had a couple of questions about if I could provide some more detail. So this is going to be a one-off epoxy sculpt mask. This Format clay that's I'm building this Undersculpt up with is not going to be part of the finished mask at all. I'm going to dig out this material from the hardened shell of epoxy sculpt that's going to be on top of this once I start sculpting on top. So the shape that's underneath here is going to be the negative space, the inside of what the mask looks like. So what my face and the pads will be kind of glued up against. So this is just the base, and when I'm laying this down here, I'm actually also trying to show to myself what the shape of the finished mask will be like, sort of like understand the form. I can't really just picture things in my head and then make them. I need to like try it and see. So what I'm doing here is, again, building this up, figuring out what the shape of the mask is. And then over here on the other side, what I've started to do is lay down a very rough sort of idea of what the finished mask will look like. Now, all this is, again, Format clay. Before I start laying epoxy sculpt on, I'm going to have to tear all these little bits off. And what I'm basically trying to do is I'll take pictures of this so I know where I'm going to go with epoxy sculpt once that time comes. But this will all have to be torn off and smoothed down like this. And then I'll start adding the epoxy back up into the mask, and then I'm going to build these sort of forms using epoxy sculpt on top. Now, I haven't decided on this yet. It's looking a little Flash Gordon for me still right now, or the Flash. So I mean, whoever's got the wings off his ears. It's but it's based on some organic kind of shapes I've seen on some of Jordu Shell's work. It's looking a little too alien to me right now, but I'm going to sort of correct for that with kind of like a wooden kind of paint scheme to make it kind of fit more into the world of my haunt and the sort of aesthetic sensibilities that I like. Again, this is just soft clay. All this is just easy to tear off. It's just, you know, it's very, very roughly laid down, and I can't press it in too hard because I want to be able to just yank it off and then smooth and have, you know, kind of get back to where I am over on here, on this side. And, you know, the mask is going to come back fairly back along the head. I'll put, you know, leather straps and all the rest of it on. But I'm aiming to try and get this mask going. I've been idle for too long, and I wanted to make another epoxy mask. This is not going to be light when it's done because I'm going to be using quite a bit of epoxy sculpt. The mask, the head will be built up more to this ridge. You have to keep, since this is the Undersculpt, I have to keep this part fairly close to the head, because if you think about it, this is the negative space, this clay, that's going to be between the head, your actual head, and the mask. So it has to be pretty close to the head here. If it was all built up very high, then when I lay the epoxy on top, then basically this mask would sink down. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about. I don't know if I'm making that clear or not, but so I have to build sort of the clay to here. When I start building epoxy on top, then I can start building up to this height. But I need the mask to actually be able to sit flush down on a person's head. So I'm sure that's all very confusing, but if you look back on some of my other videos about the previous epoxy mask I made, the one with the antlers, then it should be more clear. Again, I'm going to try and steer this sculpt away from looking so alien right now, but I kind of like where it's going. It should be pretty nasty when it's all done. So that's it. Sorry for the blathering on and on. I'll talk to you all soon, and happy hunting.